Hey guys, Carnifex Another Nerd. This video today, I'm going to show you my ability upgrade ranking spreadsheet that I've made. So this is something I've been working on for a while. I've had like a working version of it for a few weeks now that I've shared within the guild, but I wanted to give it a real good run through after we had a little more time with characters before I put it out more publicly. So what this is, I've gone through every character in the game right now, including characters like Thalon, who we can't have, but we have their abilities. We can see the upgrade levels, and obviously they could always make changes, but assuming that they don't, this is where they are. This is gonna be a fluid document. I'm not expecting it to change every day, but whenever we find out, for example, who's required for the next legendary character, the elves, they went through some changes that some of it was because we kind of saw more of the character's potential because we weren't investing them in as much, and it went from being kind of strictly conceptual to, you know, somewhat practical as well. But also you had, you know, at some point you're going to want to get Ember. She's a great damage dealer for Panda faction that they don't really have a ton of damage there. And so, okay, cool. Now I got to go. Now it means that 5 characters that I want to use for that are a little boosted. So this will change with time, and it's not necessarily because something's wrong. It's just because things became more valuable. So I want to go over what this actually is. So this is not saying inherently that ability with lots of greens is good. So it's on a 1 to 5 scale, right? You can see a 1 is red. It's to help you just kind of like visually, if it was just a bunch of white and black, it'd be harder to kind of see at a glance. And so I set up some color formatting so that it would be kind of easier to see at a glance. So it's on a scale of 1 to 5. 5 is the value of this upgrade is great. 1 is, gosh, you might not ever need to get this unless there's one later on. So let's break down this one, right? So we have Cruel right here. This is a character I feel like we all know decently well. So you can see, hey, at ability 5, that's a 5, and this one's a 2. Like, what is going into all this? So all that I'm evaluating is the value of upgrading that ability. So Summit considers the cost, right? It's a lot of things are going into it. It's how much does this cost, right? If these 2 abilities right here give you the same benefit, this one's going to get a higher ranking. This ability to increase. I know you kind of can't see it there. I'm messing with a new thing. People were saying they liked the idea of having, maybe I can kind of move this guy out over here so that we can always see right there. Still kind of mess around with this, trying to work off some recommendations that people had for my videos so they could see the content better. We might even dive in here a little bit so that we can see. So we're going on Cruel. We're going to go right on this, right? So you can see for ability level 2, she's got a 4 here and a 3 there. If that might be because these 2 give the same % damage increase, there's no effects that are different, and this one's cheaper, so it's got a higher grade. Now, if the difference isn't that significant, it might not result in a full grade, because if you want to think about it this way, on a scale of 1 to 100, this is a 60 and this is an 80. So if I have one that's like a 75 and one's a 78, they're both going to be a 4, right? But so let's go ahead into Cruel here, and we'll break her down. So if you look right here, I have not put anything into my Cruel because she's not on my arena team, and I haven't been forced to for any other reason. That's part of my mentality. And so we're going to go into, so her 1 is not that great. The benefit of the healing only comes if you're fighting demons. You know, it depends on that. Doesn't help you as much in arena because really the only demon you're encountering right now is Kyra, and even then, not even all teams are running Kyra. So you may get 0 benefit from this whatsoever from the healing portion of it. You're still going to get the magic damage, and even then, eventually it can't get to the point where it heals the reflections, and she definitely gets a little bit of value there. But again, it's all dependent on demons, and generally Kyra is not the last person you're trying to kill either. So she doesn't do a ton of damage in the first place. She doesn't have like the highest magic damage score. So whenever I'm looking at this, right, let's go ahead and see if I can kind of condense this a little bit so we can get both on the same screen for a little while. Okay. We're just going to work with this right now. So we can see right here, I rated this one a little higher because it's so circumstantial. getting this additional 10% healing benefit. So to me, I think 25% damage is a pretty good increase for a level 2 ability upgrade for a single target basic. I'm taking all that into consideration, right? I'm looking, what are the trends for all the single target basics versus the couple, the one, maybe even AoE basic. What about special single target? It's mostly with specials, so single target specials versus AoE specials. They have different spectrums of damage, because obviously if you bumped up the damage increase on an AoE at the same rate as you increase something like Nightingale's, ability block special, I mean, gosh, that would just be an insanely overpowered thing. So it's got to be all relative to that. It's not just looking at a number. It takes more things in consideration than that. And as you can see, it drops significantly because we didn't see an increase in the damage that we received for the investment, but now we're getting into a decent amount of greens, some amount of blues. So to me, again, as a non-damage dealer, is this the most important thing to her kit? No. So it bumps up a little bit towards the end, right? You got 3 and 3. Sorry, dance with me, because she gets the higher percentage that is proportionate to what we're getting out of her. Plus, at the end, this ability to summon, to heal the summon reflections, that's solid enough to me to keep that as a 3. We go on. So let's go to ability 2 now, right? Maybe I can leave this right here. We just know I'm talking. I'll just leave this here as a place marker. So I'm going to go on in here. We're going to bump up this ability right here. Cool. So first, you get 30% magic damage is pretty average for a single target special. So she gets a 3 for ability level 2. Now the next one, she's going to start calling her reflections to assist. Now, if this were a more costly, if this were farther down the line, and that was the only additional benefit I was getting, it would actually get a lower rate because, I mean, by the time she's able, this is only going to start counting on her second attack, right? So you might only get to use that benefit once in an arena fight. So, but because it's so cheap, because we got a little boost to the damage, but as you can see, again, we plummet because now we get no bonus. We get no bonus effect. We get the same amount of damage we already get, and we're paying more for it. So we're going to drop this sucker, right? 5% more magic damage than we got for a handful of green scrolls. Now we're putting in 3 times as many green scrolls and some decent blue scrolls. So we're going to drop the value of that individual upgrade. Now right here, right? This is, if you don't have this, if it's a 5, that means that either it's something that's essential to the kit, or the value that is given back is just so good. This ability isn't this ability without you getting to ability level 5. And so kind of what I'm indicating here is, hey, this is not a good upgrade. Right here, level 4, no. But you know what? This is so good that at some point it might be worth getting both of these. But if you're having to be really careful where you're putting into your ability scrolls, you can kind of stop here until you know that you're ready to invest up to this point, because this is not going to be worth it. Use it on other things if you need, or use it just kind of like stock up until you know you can get this, then get that. Because if you don't get the turning the defenders invisible for a turn, like, gosh, this isn't even that ability. It's just a random, her whole kit is jacked up without this, so it's huge. For this, we're getting an increase in the amount of magic damage that we're receiving in return for the scrolls, and we're getting the additional turn of invisibility. So we like these few upgrades right here, and some of them are okay. Now we're going to go into this next one here. And this is a good example because this ability is very good. However, the value of what you get back for the upgrades is not. So if you see like 3 and a bunch of 2s, like, oh, this must be a crappy ability. It's not a crappy ability. It's actually a really good ability. It stinks that you have the long... I'm not trying to do that. That you have the long cooldown on it, right? That never changes as you go down here. That's, you're not using that for a few turns. So it is a good ability, but the upgrades are, this is not, the upgrades themselves are not as significant as some other things that are out there. So if you look right here, right, we get a little bit of health and shields, but it's not, 50% health and shields now. Okay, like that's something, I guess, and it's pretty cheap, so sure. 10% damage, like it's just, in my experience, the more valuable things to get right now, if you're not cloning, at least most of the time, if you're not cloning the opponent's Nightingale, you're probably doing it wrong. Because having 2 of those people coming around and like cleansing the buffs is just bonkers. It really does melt away all the opponent's buffs. And she can still throw the ability block on, and she can still put attack buff on everybody, which is all that's irrelevant to the amount of damage that she's doing, the amount of health and shield she has. So that's really significant. But the ability upgrades don't really do that much to increase it. So yeah. Really, I feel like I could even make the argument that this should be a 1 here. In fact, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and do that. Because it's just really not much. Wait, that was the other one. No, it wasn't. I'm looking at the next thing. All right, we're going to go to the next one. So I've kind of iterated the point here where, hey, I've talked about she's not really damage here. She's more of a support. So doing more damage, and especially circumstantially getting some healing, not as great as making the defender invisible, as negating the taunt, pulling another character out to either have primarily effects related things go on, which none of that's relevant to what their health or shields are, so we don't care about that as much. Now we go into here, right, her passive, which her passive is really good at some point. So really there's only one way that people are using this right now, and it's definitely the best way to use it. So if you look right here, you can see at the beginning it's like, okay, I guess if I had 3 healers, all of them gain cheat death for a turn. What are the odds that you're going to run 3 healers, let's say even 2 healers, Cruel, a tank, and like another character, and then steal the other character's healer? Like that, I'm not saying there's no chance, I'm just saying that's not what people are using it for. Giving haste to tacticians, that's not bad, but are you going to have 2 tacticians in the first, like again, you're only getting that shadow on the 4th turn. Like one of your tacticians might be dead by then. So it's like, I mean, if you can find some circumstantial way to do it, fine. I put a 1 on the accuracy thing because I could have been a little more stingy on these and given these all 1s. Because there's essentially no circumstance where you're going to do it. Warriors is at least a little more, because giving the counterattack every turn, there could definitely be some events where that's really useful to crank up the damage, or like the debuff generation if they have debuff on basic. The main thing people use this for is this guy right here. They run Nightiel, they run Cruel, and Cruel steals a mage. And once they're able to do that, all good in the hood. They're able to turn invis every single time, and it's, even if Tromgar is not attacking, it's Soleus, and you know you're keeping your damage dealers around, I guess. But this is the main thing people use it for. So really, up until this point, So whenever you see this, you're like, okay, if I'm paying for this, I'm really paying the cost of all of these upgrades. I don't know if that's really worth it for me. At what point is it worth it? But it's also like, this is this is one of the big things people use her for, is to have that additional ability of invisibility. So that's just kind of breaking down again, like what this is supposed to be. I'm going to post a link to this in the description. I'm not going to go over every single one of these guys. But I have indicated a few, like minimize investment, or there's notes on them. You know, I've specified like ability 1 is great because it calls Nightiel, but the score is for the value of the upgrade, right? So this is not saying that Soleus ability 1 is bad when used with Nightiel. And I've said, let's see if I can find another one. Ability 1 considers the ability to assist Soleus. It does solid damage. I think I may have one time ever killed someone through shield. Where they actually had shield left, so I don't see that as valuable. I know some other people feel very differently, so this is partially subjective, but there's definitely the mathematical component where I'm like, hey, I know the percentages that are average for single target specials, AoE specials, etc., and this is above or below average on that return for the ability level upgrade. So level 6 of ability 1 is increased by 1 under a Nightiel lead. Why is that? Because on this one, right, on whenever you max this, he's guaranteed a critical hit in certain circumstances. Whenever you have the Nightiel lead, right, you get those additional benefits for critting. You get the health back. So at that point, it's like, hey, you know what? That's kind of a 3 instead of a 2 now, because he's a tank. He's getting health back. We can deal with that. That's something for sure. Just looking at and there are kind of like ideal what I call like PvP teams, but these are mostly what we're going to be thinking about as we look at. There are a couple exceptions where I did steal from like one character from another group. For example, I steal Nighttail to put it with Soleus, right? But as a core, you can kind of look and see, hey, this is kind of the team I probably want to be setting up for like my top 5 elves for tower or something like that. This one features Thalon, so it's like, okay, we don't have her yet. Thalon's fantastic, by the way. Even if it is goblins that you have to get in order to get Thalon, she's great, and you would not be going wrong. She absolutely neuters Soleus in the raid. And I'm planning on doing a video where I go over all the legendaries and why I didn't like Ember as much, why I didn't go as hard on her. But anyway, as you can see, there's a lot of notes on Shaolin. There are a couple that have some additional notes, but like right here, right, Kenley, Patriarchy, superior leadership lowers the value of Kenley lead. Unless there's a circumstance where, hey, it's a tournament and Kenley's required and it doesn't make sense to use Patriarchy in that combination, well, yeah, his lead might become more valuable because it might be the only leader that you're using on it, and it may be circumstantially really good. But overall, if I'm looking as a core at, less valuable leadership because the pandas have a good lead already and someone that he pairs with really well. So at this point, I'm going to leave it and I'm going to share it, and I will see you guys some other time. Feel free. I would appreciate any suggestions. If you're like, hey man, I feel like you really are underselling this or that, etc. I want to hear it because, like I said, this is partially subjective. I'm trying my best to evaluate things well. But I'm going to have different experiences, and so I'm interested to hear anything. Let me know if there's anything you want to see me do on the test account. I'm working on having something ready later this week, hopefully, but it takes a long time to get everybody up and ready in that when they're all starting from square one. Anyway, so have a good one, guys. I'll see you next time.